Hey guys, it's actually from HockeyBuzz, and welcome to the show. We're going to be joined today later by Hank, our Sabres writer. We're currently joined by Pete, our forever Winnipeg guy, and he's stuck with the forever role. Never will ever not be a Winnipeg HockeyBuzz person.
This is old home week. We have Brian Metzer, we have Pete Tessier.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. Can Andy Strickland be far behind? Russ, give me your what do you got? What do you got going on?
So it's rare that I'm going to talk about college basketball, but a legend is retiring after this season, Mike Krzyzewski. He's actually been the coach at Duke since 1980. 1980. He's played over 1,100. He's coached over 1,100 games, most in men's college basketball. It's weird though because I was on that campus the last time I was down south there, and you know, you get a feeling like there's something great about that campus because it's old and it's got like great plumage and everything looks great. And then you remember, oh yeah, there's this guy Duke, the guy, the statue, he's probably a racist. So there's that crosses my mind. I'm sorry, Mike, but that's
no. I know.
Probably is.
That was my reality 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I have had a lot of friends who graduated from Duke, and
yeah, I mean,
they're super crazy smart people. It's like that. Right. The engineers that come out of there are just ridiculous.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, the university sucks because Richard Nixon went there for his law degree. I mean, it's I
didn't say that. I just said I was talking about the big statue of the maybe guy with questionable whatever. Krzyzewski's not questionable, and he coached the Dream Team, the first Dream Team. Everybody remembers that. Even Eck might remember the Dream Team.
I can recall something like that. Yeah.
He's
Michael
thinking
Jordan.
of the
ring a bell, Eck, now?
Yeah, something about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's thinking of the movie with Michael Keaton, but no.
But anyhow, it's a pretty great career.
No, that's a really. 1980 is crazy.
1980.
Like, I mean, I was in 6th grade in 1980. You know, like that's like what comes to my mind immediately. I'm like, holy cow, that's a long time ago.
I think the only coach that is still coaching that is longer than him is Boeheim at Syracuse. So
yeah, Boeheim is probably the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay.
All right. Very cool. Wow. Here we go. All right. Hello, Hockey World. It is Thursday, June 3rd, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and my Honda HR-V is my studio.
I'm Pete Tessier, chiming in from Winnipeg.
There you go.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we'd like to talk about the good games last night, and we will. But unfortunately, we got to start with this stupidity. This Mark Scheifele hit. You know, just last night at the end of the game on Jake Evans. I mean, I guess we're going to start with you, Peter, because I mean I know you probably have a different view maybe than some of us, but I'm not sure. But go ahead and give your 2 cents for sure.
You know, okay, let's get something out of the way first and foremost. The hit should never have happened. That's the first thing. Okay, like I don't think we have to go too forensic on this, but there's a lot of white knighters out there who are using this opportunity again to illustrate some of the issues that exist in hockey around physical contact, injuries, and preventing things. And there's a reason to do that. But if you're going to say you need to outlaw this kind of thing, you can't outlaw people lying on their backs on the ice, potentially unconscious. You have to outlaw the things that lead to the injury. So if you outlaw that, what are the other kinds of injuries that you want to outlaw? Because then you have to start changing the way the game's played. It goes that way. So let's just take a break here and let's dispel some rumors. Or let's dispel some, let's do some legal gymnastics here and think about it this way. Let's talk about the first one narrative that's going on here. Mark Scheifele skated 200 feet down the ice to hit him. No. Mark Scheifele didn't know where Evans was going to be to make the hit when he was 200 feet down the ice. He had no idea where he was. Evans wasn't even 200. Russ, just wait.
Okay.
Evans wasn't even across the blue line.
Actually,
chasing the puck.
He was already curled his stick, and the puck was already going to the net. So the idea that Scheifele raced 200 yards, he knew, hold on, Peter, he knew at about 180 feet he couldn't make the play. And instead of trying to put the stick to puck, he nailed him because he knew the puck was already going in the net.
Hold on.
Impossible to make the play.
No, he didn't know that. He didn't know that. He didn't even know where Evans was going to be. He didn't know how the puck was going to be.
He had to know where he's going to be.
Russ, if he was 180 feet away and he could see where Evans was going to go, he wouldn't have skated anyway.
He didn't know he would have been on the left side of the ice.
He was already gassed.
Okay. No. Okay, hold on.
This is an fallacy.
Okay.
This is an unusual situation because I'm going to be the voice of reason, and Russ is the one who's on one side and Pete is on the other side. I think that, obviously Scheifele did not skate 200 feet to hit Evans. He skated 200 feet to prevent Evans from scoring the goal.
Yes.
Now what the problem here is, this was unnecessary. This was basically Scheifele was doing, okay, he scored the goal, and he did this instantaneously, so it's without thought. He's going to score the goal. I'm going to make him pay for scoring the goal.
That's what he did.
And he wasted him. Now, he didn't hit him in the head. He didn't. No. He sort of freight trained him, but it's a big guy with momentum like Scheifele.
He did follow through with it, and there's no reason to hit him there.
Well,
so that's a different issue than he skated 200 feet.
I'll give you. I will yield that to you, Peter. I will yield to you that didn't skate 200 feet as the arbitrator.
He let up at the top of the circle. If he was trying to,
it's Peter, you're actually contradicting yourself there, because if he let up at the top of the circle, that means he knew it was a goal. Okay, so if he's
exactly. So he let up, but as you can see, I don't think let's go into what Mark Scheifele is going to be saying in his hearing. He's going to say, this is what he's going to say, and this is what he's going to be coached to say, and this is what he should say, is he's going to say, I thought I could catch him. I gassed myself. I've been on the ice for this long. I did a sprint. Evans was moving slower than I thought. So I let up because my legs were done, because I thought he was going to put the puck in the net. Then he didn't, and I thought then he didn't. I thought I could reach him, and then he got the puck around, so I hit him. I made a last-minute decision. That decision to hit him was the thing that said everything wrong. Right. He had the ability to, first of all, not hit him, but he also had the ability to just wrap him up in a bear hug and go into the wall with him after he scored and not drive him down. That's the thing. He made a conscious choice to say, I can't get a puck. It's in the net, or it's going in the net, and I'm going to hit him. That's what he did wrong.
Right. And why did he hit him? Because he was mad about the penalty before that when he was screaming his head off. Yeah. And that was his way of getting back to the other team in the game. He was pissed off.
Yeah.
Now
no one has ever done a retaliatory hit in the NHL.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, let me ask the panel this question, because I took a picture of Scheifele maybe one stride away from Evans, and Evans curling around the post with the puck basically in the blue paint. So it was basically instantaneous. It was maybe a half a second where he had a chance to think of what he was going to do. Okay, let's say Scheifele was one stride closer and Evans has the puck and he hits him the same way that he hit him. If he has the puck, are we even talking about a penalty? Because
are we even talking about? Here's the other thing: if Hellebuck's
charging by definition,
it's still charging.
If Hellebuck's in net, are we even talking about it?
It's charging.
Because it's still charging.
It's still charging. It's the definition of charging. It's like completely.
I'm not debating whether it was charging or not.
Yeah,
I don't think it's clearly it was, but the notion that he did 200 feet to charge him is completely
Scheifele's a competitor, and he absolutely was trying.
It's not accurate.
Problem. Here's where you could legislate it, Pete, as far as making it a rule. If this is the end of the game, the same way they're trying to keep penalties out of the end of games, this is just basically, hey, we just lost the game, so now I'm going to take this guy's head off, and I'm going to just hit him. You can't have that. If that starts happening in every game, every player will have CTE in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, you could do this every game. Every time there's an empty net or somebody else could just go and hit the guy on the other team and just say,
I want to go back to the Shane Gostisbehere Shane Gostisbehere play, actually, which I thought was the most similar to it, where a guy scores in an empty net goal and Shane Gostisbehere pushes him into the boards, right?
Right. You can't have this happening.
And that wasn't nearly as dangerous. He gets 2 games, right? So
yes.
If he's going to get 3 games. I think he's going to get 3.
Well, okay. Let me
go down that road later. What the wheel of justice should say.
But we will. Let me finish one little thought on this, because
but the Gostisbehere was different, because Gostisbehere was with the stick. It was not a hit. It was a stick to the skates.
It was a push.
Undercut him.
It was a push.
Undercut him.
Yeah, it was a push.
So here's the worst part about this.
It was not really out to the skate. It was more of a push to his back.
It was a push. When they're talking to Scheifele, they're basically going to say, Mark, if you're trying to prevent the goal, why didn't you ever try and put your stick there to do it? Because he never did. Because he knew he couldn't. He knew he couldn't reach the point, and that frustrated him, and that's what caused it.
Yeah.
And here's the thing.
And absolutely. And the other thing too is you look at sort of the glide and the timing, and when you look at it in real time on the overhead view, you could suggest that Scheifele may have thought, I can't catch him. Wait a sec. I'm going to get there. Oh, I'm not going to get there. I might as well hit him and hope he doesn't get it around.
Right.
And that's the other thing too. Again, why this looks so awful. And it was awful. It was absolutely awful. You never want to see a guy go down, but this happens fairly regularly, clean, dirty, whatever. That's part of it. Right. So it's a risk that comes with this. When you take this situation out of the way, show me a hit where a player is going to play the puck to take it away from the person they're hitting and then decides I'll hit, or if they're going to make a hit. They don't exist. The idea of hitting someone is to separate them from the puck and regain possession.
Right.
That's what you're doing with hitting. So you're never getting your stick out to play the puck.
No, but on that play, that's what you're supposed to do, because a hit wasn't going to prevent the goal.
What I'm saying is he probably looked at 3 different things going in there. And that's what I would be saying if I'm Scheifele. I thought I could catch him. No, I didn't. No, he took longer. Right. And then I never got my stick out. I should have, and he should come out.
I have a real life history about that I can share here. That kind of like shows what I think. I don't think he was thinking any of that stuff, Peter. I mean, I was as a player, right? And I played against a team that I hated this team, and we played them a lot. And we were down by a bunch of goals, and they were still piling it on. I'm the goalie, right? So they're still piling it on. One of our guys freezes the puck with his hand in the crease. They award a penalty shot to the other team. The guy's coming on a penalty shot, and as he's coming in, I did like a poke check at like waist level. Like I went right at, and I was pissed, and I swung at him. Like I literally like swung at him. Like in a moment, one of my moments of my life that I like regret the most of ever doing. Like I was completely and utterly shouldn't have done it. It was horrible. It was terrible sportsmanship. I was pissed. I should never have done it. The guy fortunately wasn't hurt too bad. He was hurt for a little bit. I felt like I saw Scheifele look like right afterwards, like what the hell? Why the hell did I do that? And here's the thing. Why I think all this analyzing and everything like that. This is just pure testosterone and energy. That's all this is. He's flying, he's running, he's trying to get to him. He's going as fast as he can. He sees the goal goes in. He's pissed. He hits him all at once. Bam. And that's the bottom line. That's how it goes. Now, yes, he should have peeled off. And yes, it's absolutely horrible what happened. But I don't think we can analyze it to the level we're analyzing at. To me, this is just pure in the moment energy.
Let's just say that, I mean, the attempt to analyze the facial expression of Scheifele regarding guilt or innocence is such bull crap that it should,
Scheifele's a great guy, guys. I mean, Scheifele is a great guy.
I know, but
at least Mr. Wild could have done one Google search and looked at what eyes look like, which is all over Google, which is the other thing. Is that what you're talking about? The tweet?
I saw, and I don't know who. I just saw the general commentary that says, "Well, he had a look of guilt on his face." I mean, what the hell does that mean? It says all I know is this. I think part of the
guilt on his face. That's totally fine, Mike. Continue.
No, but great guy doesn't matter either. It doesn't.
It doesn't matter either. No, like I said, what I did was unforgivable. Like way back when, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right. Part of the equation here is is that Scheifele coming around the net, Evans coming around the net with all of his momentum coming around the net, and Scheifele skating 200 feet, and Scheifele being the bigger player, and Evans leaning forward to score the goal. It was two Mack trucks colliding, but the thing is, the bigger Mack truck is going to have the advantage, and Evans
also
was
the momentum, Mike. The momentum that Scheifele has versus the momentum.
Evans was out. He was out.
He was unconscious.
And that, I think, was what contributed, Peter, to the ugliness of this, is that Evans basically did a 180. He did a flip and landed on his shoulder and head.
And the Ehlers did a great job keeping everybody away. That was great because we learned from the Steve Moore thing that that was something that really hurt him. That part was good. The other part here is, though, I didn't feel like Scheifele showed any remorse at the moment. I didn't.
Well, he got mobbed, and I think he was. I don't even telling you honest truth, Russ. I don't even think he realized just what exactly had happened.
Maybe not. That may be true,
and that's part of it too. There are people who do lay, when you do lay a hit, and sometimes you're a little stunned after too, because there's
Corey Perry was stunned after his hit.
Was,
right.
I'm not saying he shouldn't have been aware. I just don't think he was for whatever reason. But the whole narrative here that Ducharme's trying to float, I don't think their team was that concerned. Again, we're getting into mind reading. There's one Jets player who basically took everyone to protect the guy and saw the impact of it. Well, what's the rest supposed to do? Jump over the boards too?
No, Ehlers was great. But you know what it is? Also, the Mike Commodores and Sean Avery's need to shut the hell up. You're from a different era. We don't need to hear from you. We don't need to hear about Neanderthal actions that you think are justified. We don't.
Yeah, but good luck with that, because they're Twitter whores who basically love the attention.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Peter. The contributing factor to this maybe was the scrum that happened a couple minutes before, when you had Logan Stanley going at it with Weber, and I think Scheifele got a
being in a chokehold.
Yeah. And
then he was the one who ended up in the box.
Right. And he was like I think that was a contributing factor, because the ridiculousness of that. Now, I don't know if that's going to be taken into consideration.
It's a contributing factor, and I'll go back in history to another moment, and I'm not comparing the two in the sense of, but I'm comparing the way officials call a game. Mm-hmm. Somehow Scheifele ended up in a chokehold and was the only one in the box, sets off that chain of reaction.
Yeah.
And I'll go back to the famous March, whatever it was, 6th date in 2004 when Todd Bertuzzi hit Moore.
Yep.
And you know who was behaving like an absolute maniac that game? Brad May. And they let him get away with everything. He supercharged the situation. Yeah. He was doing all sorts, and they didn't do anything. They let it carry on.
So
it's the same point that happens. What happened with the last thing with Tom Wilson? If they do something on the ice, if they do it away, that's how you get rid of this stuff, and you manage it.
And Peter, Steve Moore got into a fight before the incident and won the fight. And the whole reason that it happened was because Bertuzzi and the Canucks were pissed off that he won. They wanted to exact revenge. So there you go. I don't think any of that was
the other. Hold on. The other thing I think that really,
agreed.
That really makes this bad, and it really frames it, is there's no one around. There's not a single player within feet of them. 30 feet. They're way out there. I think Ehlers is maybe hustling back. But it's so absent of everything. It just looks awful. And if that's a play going up mid-ice where maybe the puck kind of moves away from your skate and you line them up, we're not screaming is dirty. We're saying it's not right. He still charged him, but we're not calling it dirty and garbage. We're saying you charged to make the hit. This one is so unnecessary because of where it was, who was around, what was it going to achieve. And that's the part that's so disappointing of it. Like, I thought about it before I went to bed last night, and I woke up and I was feeling kind of odd, and I'm saying, what am I really trying to figure out here? And the part that really bugged me was it was such a preventable thing. There was no, I'm coming up the ice. I whip around a guy, boom, exploding chickens.
And that's what it looked like. That's what it looked like. Shifley felt like that. If I'm not to read a person's mind or whatever, but I've talked to Shifley a bunch of times, and he's one of those guys I really do get along with. And I just look, and I'm not saying I can analyze him from his face or whatever, but to him, if I was to guess what he was saying, Mike, Peter, as he's skating off the ice, when I saw it, it's that was preventable. That was stupid. That's really what in his head that he knew that too. And he was just, what Jeffrey says here in the chat room, I think is absolutely valid, because there were some brutal hits in that Tampa, Florida series after the whistle that no one paid attention to.
Sure, but that doesn't make this right.
I'm not saying it does either. But this brings me to my bigger point, Russ, which also takes us to the spot of the concept of that I really want to talk about for a second with you guys is that.
Well, all right, give me 1 sec then, because
go ahead.
The two things I want to mention to the chat room. We know about force. In the 70s, Kermit Washington, maybe it was late 70s, I think it was. Kermit Washington did a running punch to Rudy Tomjanovich and destroyed his face. Yep. So we know what happens when someone has force behind it. That's when everybody started learning about that back in the 70s.
There's no question.
And the other thing is, somebody said this was a textbook hit. Look in the textbook. The actual cause of charging, look up in the rule book. You will see it is textbook charging.
Yeah, this wasn't rule clean. Right. This wasn't Rule 48. It wasn't targeting the head. It was shoulder to chest. But because Shifley was bigger and had the momentum and had Evans leaning, that was the result. Now, what I'm curious about, and we'll see what's going to happen probably either later today or tomorrow morning before the next game, is what he's going to get. And here you go, because
this is what I want to talk about.
All right. This is my particular belief. The problem that I have with star treatment and what they get for suspensions. Shifley is a star. He is next to Hellebuyck. He's their most important player. Yeah. That is going to have a factor in the suspension. Plus the fact that he's never been suspended before, right, Peter? So I'm thinking he's going to get a game or two, and if he gets a game or two, Montreal will explode. But I don't care. Now, do I think 1 or 2 is right? No, but I think that's what's going to happen, and that just shows the duplicity of the NHL when it comes to penalties for guys like Tom Wilson or penalties to star players. And I hate that, but that's what's going to happen.
Here's two quick things. One thing: if you hit a guy in the head or hit a guy clean or hit a guy in the shoulders, it doesn't matter as far as concussions go. This is something that people continually wonder. Eric Lindros's worst concussion came when he was just hit straight on, not to the head. I mean, your concussion comes from your brain joggling around in your head.
Yeah.
If you're moving at a certain force, your brain's still going at that force. You stop suddenly, your brain hits the front of your head. It doesn't matter whether you were hitting the head or not. So that's real crazy. That the whole delivered straight to the head thing bothers me to no end about that. But
targeting the head,
right? Okay, but here's the thing: I believe, but more than ever before, and we've talked about this many over the years. We talked about all these things. But we talked about this specifically over the years. I think the NHL fans have lost complete faith with the NHL Department of Safety. Yes. I think that I think part of what's happening today is a result of that, because the discussion today is about, well, Tom Wilson got nothing. This guy got this guy got some. Bennett got this. Everybody got this. And I think the NHL has really, really lost its way on this stuff. And I think that I think Paris should be removed. I honestly do. I think he's done a horrible job. And I think that.
Remember, Colin Campbell has something to do with this too. And he still stays employed while they keep replacing the Paroses and everybody else.
I know, but they have gotten to the point now where they have lost confidence in their fans. Completely.
Wait for a 1 game suspension. If someone finds out that Colin Campbell is like Mark Shifley's godfather's second cousin.
Campbell's old enough, he's related to everybody in NHL at some point. But yeah, I agree. And I think the real issue right now is going to be the NHL, how they handle this, because if they give him the full rest of the series, which honestly is what I think it should be. Honestly, I do, because I think that Jake Evans is a hugely important player. No, I'm not saying that's why, but I'm saying that it's a definite shot at the series if Evans doesn't play again, and if Shifley comes back. It's a shot to the series if Shifley is suspended for the rest of the series too. But
if Evans is very important to Montreal too.
I really feel like one doesn't play.
If you're going to dive down the rabbit hole of punishment meets the punishment's got to meet the crime in terms of what happens to the other player. That's a different conversation.
That is.
It just is a different conversation. Play in the world that we're playing in. And here's what the problem is right now. Let's go back again to 2004, 2005. Eklund becomes famous. We come out of the lockout, and what do we get? We get the shootout, and we get a commitment by the NHL to work with the officials to stop the clutch and grab. And they started calling everything.
Right.
This is the problem. There's the cries from the fans, cries from within the league have all been around. How do you get this stuff straight? But you can't do it mid-season. Right. They've got their basic case law thing that happens and go from there. This offseason, Gary Bettman has got to get the crew together and say, we need to reset it all. And then you need to educate the.
No, but this is the job of the commissioner. He supersedes all of that. The commissioner doesn't have to know everything in the rule book. The commissioner.
No, I'm not saying the commissioner does, but the directive, Russ, to say we're changing the way we look at this.
No, that's fine. But to deal with this situation, if Gary Bettman wants to, he could say, hey, I get that this is a phone thing, but now after talking to you, I'm giving you 10. Let the PA say what they want after this, but now I'm giving you 10.
Well,
now
Bettman
that I know
just uphold Kadri's, but Bettman did just uphold Kadri's suspension. So Bettman obviously wants more suspensions.
But actually, I was just going to bring that up. Okay, so Kadri gets a suspension in Game 2 against St. Louis, and now they're in game through Game 2 against Colorado, and it's in the appeals process. By the time Kadri's appeal goes through, he'll have served the 8 games already.
We talked about that. That's definitely
This should be. I mean, this process should be streamlined. That it's going to take less time, and I think take it out of the hands of somebody. George Peros was an enforcer. I mean, hey, give it to Craig Janney. He didn't have a penalty in his entire life. How about doing that, or give it to somebody like a lawyer. That take it out of the hands.
Fewer lawyers. Let's get
fewer lawyers.
Yeah, we need fewer lawyers. Trust me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to bring on Hank actually while we continue this discussion. Hank Balling is our Buffalo Sabres blogger, first time on the podcast. Hey, Hank.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you?
Good.
Very, very, very good. Thank you for joining us. You can feel free to jump in as well as we continue this discussion, and then we're going to get on to some Buffalo things because there was something else that happened yesterday.
Well, can we actually talk about the game itself?
Let's get into the game. Let's finish the game first before we do this.
Because Peter, I mean, a team that has been sitting for over a week. Against a team that has just come off a 7-game series, even though the 7-game series was, physically taxing. You could be like Colorado after a sweep and destroy the team that had played 7 games, or you could be like Winnipeg. And I thought they were comatose, especially in the first period where they give up 3 goals to the Canadians.
That was goal number 2.
Right.
Paul Maurice should have called a timeout because it was clear none of the reads were happening.
Yeah, everything was askew.
Everything was a mess. He should have called a timeout. He should have settled them down, and he should have dealt with it. And he should have said, hey, guys, they disrupted the outlet pass. They disrupted the transition game.
Yep.
They made life miserable. And Winnipeg forwards were lagging behind the puck carrier. Then all of a sudden the defensemen were doing the zone entries. It was a hot mess of garbage.
But you know what they also knew, Peter? Montreal knew that they were always one stick check or one poke of the puck away from having a breakaway because there are at least 2 or 3 guys on the Winnipeg defense that are just average to below average defensemen. And the problem with Montreal is when you face them is that they roll 4 lines and they all can skate. So there's really no time off or no time away. It's either Paul Byron, it's Caulfield, and I got to tell you, Gallagher embarrassed them.
Well, I have to give the Winnipeg Jets defense credit because I have never seen Shea Weber on a breakaway, and I have now.
I don't think he's ever seen him.
That is the first time for me too.
One of the things that I noticed is it reminded me of that Winnipeg Vegas playoff series, like immediately. Like that's the thing that struck to me. That's am I right about that? Right, that was the one that got Winnipeg and Vegas met in the conference finals, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And in that series, like I compared Montreal to that first Vegas team yesterday because they're very similar in the way they play, in that they play extremely fast and they play and it doesn't matter what line's out there and they're constantly attacking. And I also am a firm believer in the first game of a playoff series being affected by the last last playoff series you played.
Mhm.
And I really do believe that, for Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, not that huge of a difference. Two teams that are not great defensively. Two teams with, I'm saying Toronto is better up front.
No, honestly,
stylistically, they play the same way. Montreal does not play anything like Edmonton plays at all.
No.
Okay, so Montreal comes in, and Winnipeg, used to just sitting back, shutting down that big line. There's no big line to shut down in Montreal.
I think
it's a completely different game.
Yeah, that's because what we learned is Edmonton's really not that good.
Right, well, that's because Edmonton has two players who can score, and Montreal, all evidence to the contrary from last night, really don't have consistent offensive performance other than Caulfield and Toffoli and Suzuki.
Well, it depends. You know what, Mike? There were times Hellebuck made great saves. The play that Caulfield made on Hellebuck was a really smart kind of veteran shot that he thought he'd get 5-ball, and that's a hard save for a big goalie to make, and he made that save.
Peter, I thought Hellebuck was extremely weak on the Gallagher goal. So Weber comes in and he stops the shot, and then he doesn't know where the puck is, and Gallagher just flies in.
But look who also was around back checking at the same time, not clearing it out. It was a hot mess of garbage, and Hellebuck had someone standing right in front of him, wasn't sure. He's probably laughing underneath his mask. What the hell is Shea Weber doing?
Right. Yeah, that was insane. That's insane.
And the chat room's right. And I said this yesterday. The best guy under pressure right now is Nick Suzuki. There's no question in my mind.
Really clear. He's been super calm, and he really just looks like he's got it all going on. And
I've got to jump off. I want to give you guys something, for people who are listening here. There's been a lot of criticism this season of Pierre-Luc Dubois and what's going on with him and low energy. So it's come to light that Dubois has been showing up at a certain Home Depot in Winnipeg a lot. And all of a sudden, there is a Home Depot social media post of Dubois and his dad. And it turns out Dubois' dad has a side business that's a renovation company.
Okay.
Oh, no.
And that Dubois might be helping him. And the guy's been really tired a lot. And the question now becomes...
You're implying... Let me get this straight, Peter. You're implying...
I've seen the post.
Pierre-Luc Dubois is hanging drywall somewhere? Or
yes.
what are you saying?
He's literally coming in. People are seeing him and stuff, and he's buying building materials and stuff. So when he's not at the ring...
They're hanging drywall.
How about taking some of the $5.5 million that you're making and pay somebody to do that instead of you actually doing it?
It's a business with his dad.
I'm going to post this and get killed forever, Peter, if I tried to post something like that. That's pretty good, though.
Yeah, that's the buzz around town right now.
I like conspiracy theories. I'll go with it.
You guys
you're a scientist. You know what's going on. Yeah. I'm completely 100% sure it's true.
You guys have fun with Hank and enjoy. Yeah, congrats on winning the first overall pick again, Hank.
I
feel like Vancouver got screwed.
Just another day being a Sabres fan.
You guys take care. Great to see y'all.
All right, let's talk to Hank. So Hank's, by the way, has taken over our Sabres spot and just done a frigging phenomenal job, Hank. I just really am so impressed. He came out of it was just a great. We had a little running like an American Idol type-esque thing, which you won, and it was. But
so Hank is Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't ask me to sing.
He's not Kelly Clarkson, right? But so last night I was watching this. First of all, what are your feelings as a fan, and for people who have never had their team in the position to actually win your first overall pick? What goes through your head, just in what's going on in your head in that spot? Mike's had this plenty of times, I know, but Toronto.
Well, we've been through this several times, in the past few years. And with the McDavid and Eichel one, that one was kind of a win-win in some ways, but it was still tough to not get McDavid, obviously. And then with the Dahlin one, I was very excited. I was a huge win, and that hasn't obviously gone completely the way that we all thought it might, but that could be chalked up to a lot of factors. This one is just so different because there's no consensus pick, right? And you could say Owen Power, but if you ask 32 GMs, maybe a half would take him. Maybe some maybe half have someone else. So
yeah.
It's a little bit different. It's obviously good that they get to make whatever decision they think is right.
Well, I mean,
Right.
Kevin Adams is and first of all, I mean, the Sabres have had the first overall pick 4 times in their history. So if they get a Gilbert Perreault or a Pierre Turgeon, I'm sure they would be happy. But I personally think Dahlin is a great young defenseman. I think he's been misused by Ralph Kruger, and I think helped by
Everyone
Don
was.
Granado.
Yeah.
But the question here is, and I think it was Paul Hamilton from WGR who asked the question on the conference call yesterday, is, you've got a lot of good young defensemen in this organization. Are you going to take Power? And they're almost Russ. They're almost in a situation here where it might be a benefit for them if they say they think they don't think Power is the guy and they like Berniers or somebody else, that they could trade out a 1 and go down to 2 or 3 and get something extra, because it's tough to get players to come to Buffalo. If you could get
that would go over well.
It's a dangerous thing. Look what
it is.
Look what Florida did to Columbus with Rick Nash. They destroyed them on that trade. That's why you don't see it very often.
You don't see it. I mean, and if there's not a definitive guy, like if they had the best goalie in the league on the Sabres and the best goalie in the league was the first overall pick, like that was the best player was a goalie, then you do it. But otherwise, no.
But I'm going to just give you an example. Now, I wonder what Hank thinks about last year's draft with Jack Quinn, because as an example, I'm going to tell you that Jack Quinn, that was way too early for him. Marco Rossi, if he didn't get COVID, would have been playing in the league. He was picked after. He would have played right in the league right away.
I think a lot of people expected Rossi to be the pick.
Yeah, sure. Lundell's going to play in the league this year. And Jack Quinn has probably the longer development cycle. Mm-hmm. And so the question I have for you is, do you trust who is making the selections just to, with that first pick? Because you can't screw it up now. You can't.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's fascinating because at the time when they made that pick, they were operating without assistant general manager. They now have Carmanos as associate general manager, Mike Adams. So at the time, his right-hand man was Jason Nightingale, who's the analytics guy for the Sabres.
Right.
And all of the analytics pointed to Jack Quinn not being picked, which made it even more sort of mystifying that was the direction that they went.
Yeah. Right.
I posted an article today just talking about, can you trust the Sabres to make the right decision? And I went through and I randomly picked 7 teams and went to their websites, looked at their personnel, and saw how many people have the word scout or scouting in their title.
Interesting.
And, offhand, I think it was Tampa and Toronto had 19 each. Mm-hmm. I think Vancouver had 21. Arizona had 12, and the Sabres have 9. So, I mean, the Sabres are just completely –
they're undermanned. They're completely undermanned.
Yeah. So, do I trust them?
That's fascinating.
Do I trust them to make the right decision? No, I do not trust them to make the
right.
decision.
That's what happens when you completely clean out your scouting staff and your support structure in one fell swoop last summer. But honestly, I mean, when you talk about Quinn, what did he have? Like 14 games in the AHL last year. He had like 9 points.
Yeah, he got hurt. He was playing hurt this year too.
Right. I mean, he'd almost benefit from going.
I think.
Yeah. He'd almost benefit going back to the OHL if the OHL plays a full season, because he's only 19 years old.
Yeah, he would have been this year for sure.
He would have been there for sure. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting when they talked to Adams right afterwards, and his reactions were kind of funny. And I thought, him telling Pagula called him and told him to smile, which is like,
let me ask
GM cams for a second, because the GM cams were just funny in and of themselves.
Yeah.
I thought,
I wrote about it. Yeah.
Entertainment to like the different GMs and what their reactions to things when they happen.
I didn't see it. I was listening in the other room, but
I was watching
something. You missed brilliant television. It was like it was insane.
But Hank, let me ask you this question.
I can reenact Jim Nill.
That's exactly right. Jim Nill he hears the pick, he's like, takes his earphones off and throws them down the table.
It was like, you know what it was like? It was like Jim Nill was at the UN and he was listening to the translation of some other country that he doesn't like, and then when he heard the translation of it, he was like, no.
He was like the Russian.
Fletcher looked like he was playing Angry Birds on his phone. Barely stopped to look up.
He was like the Russian. He was like the Russian ambassador during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah. people talked about how McDavid looked when he was selected by the Oilers, and I think what got lost in that was what Tim Murray looked like when the Oilers got McDavid. Tim Murray, I mean,
that's a great.
Guy was an open book.
Tim Murray always had that wonderful look on his face.
Yeah.
Also, Eiserman looked up at the heavens. Now, technically, if you just went like the NFL, they would have been picking sixth anyhow, right? But we all feel like Detroit got used because they've been picking there. And you felt like if they were ever deserving of a bump, if just any kind of luck, it would have been this draft. And they get nothing. Now, they're still getting great players. Don't get me wrong. But still, Eiserman was pissed.
I mean, the only team that got really screwed was Anaheim, right? They went down one pick.
Yeah. Right. But this is the thing I want to ask Hank. Kevin Adams was very specific in terms of his response, both in the league call and the regular media call, when asked about, we're not going to rush this player. It's almost like he doth protest too much, because I get the feeling that whoever they take is going to be in the opening lineup no matter what, unless it's a college player who says, I'm not coming this year.
That's the only way it could happen. But again, you heard Kevin Allen say yesterday, he heard that Powers said he's most likely going to play in the NHL, whoever he's saying that to.
The only thing I would say is Kevin Adams, I think, is looking at this in a longer term view, because he has the ear of ownership. He's been groomed for this position for 10 years. He was an assistant coach for Lindy Ruff, and he's been moved throughout the entire organization. Right. And so I think he can afford to have a little bit longer term view and maybe not rush it. But in one thing he's done, he has accrued a lot of picks this year. They have 10 draft picks. Right. So, but everything they do is a mystery. So would it surprise me if they rushed it? No. But
I'll give you this analogy or just strategy for this draft, right? So regardless of what Catherine Tappan said, it is not a deep draft. Not everybody's going to get a franchise player. Maybe there's one or two, maybe. And so you can overthink this, Hank. And I think the worry is, if I'm thinking who has the higher ceiling, because he talked about down the road as much as today, right? So you really have to weigh these things. Like, as an example, Owen Power right now is probably 80% of the player he's going to be. Yeah. Which is a positive and a negative, but mostly a positive. What you see is a lot of what you get, but he'll get stronger and he'll get even better. Now, Brent Clark is probably 50% of the player he's going to be, because he's going to learn how to play better defense. He probably even gets a little better offensively, and he gets stronger. So there's a bigger upside with Brent Clark, but I'm not picking him first because there's more risk involved with that. And so you have to decide now, how much risk do you want to incur on this first pick to show that you're right 4 years from now?
Well, he also mentioned too, we can't draft for need, but
no, you can't.
But if we're looking down the road, there's so much uncertainty with what's going on with Eichel and Reinhart and things.
Yeah, but I'm the same uncertainty. Like, I would take Power because you're losing Ristolainen.
But he did say right off the bat, they asked him, they said, what do you need? He said, we need everythting. That was literally his quote.
I did say we need everything.
Yeah. I mean, if they're picking sixth or eighth, they could justify taking Wallstedt, but it's just, I do think that center would be a good plan for them. They have Cousins, they have Middlestad. Cousins could still be a right wing. It's kind of up in the air, where he goes. And with Power, maybe I'm just not sold on him 100% as a prospect, at least for a first overall pick.
First overall pick, yeah.
What is it hold on, let me ask him. So what is it that you think you're not seeing?
I read a lot of stuff, people saying he's a good skater. I don't know that I agree that he's a good skater.
Did you watch him in the Worlds?
I haven't. I watched some of his game tape in college.
So watch the GIF of him in the Worlds where he goes about 3/4 of the ice to catch a player and pin him against the wall and get the puck.
When he gets moving, he's definitely fast. What I've seen in the tape that I've watched is that laterally, he's not that quick, and his first few steps look a little awkward to me.
Well,
but he's a huge guy, so when he gets moving, he can go pretty fast.
Yeah.
Right, and the promise of having like twin towers and Dahlin and Power on the blue line might be something that the organization looks at. But the thing I also factor in with the Sabres in terms of the decision making process is the fact that they have a lot of U.S. NDTP guys in the organization, and that they would maybe shy away from somebody.
Well, Granato is one as well.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And that was what I was gonna what I was gonna ask you, Hank, is that I said to Russ, and I said I have no proof of this, I'm just thinking out loud. Does the Sabres having the number 1 pick and getting one of these young guys and probably putting them in the NHL at 18 or 19, does that increase the possibility of Don Granato keeping the job because he's a teaching coach?
I think Granato gets the job if Eichel and Reinhart are leaving. I think he's got to be the choice, because he did such a phenomenal job with Tage Thompson, Ruotsalainen, Asplund, Middlestead, Cousin. He just did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
But if they're trying to appease veterans, do you pick a Bruce Boudreau, to make the players happy? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you the one risk here, and I'll tell it to you, Hank. The one risk here is if you are looking for a center, you decide I want a center. Okay. So let's say you take Matty Beniers first because he is the highest ranked center, highest rated center. He's still not going to be like a Jack Eichel 80-point center. He's not that guy.
No,
and he's not ready to play in the NHL either. So now
I don't think they should have the view that next year has to be a win now here, especially if they're trading Eichel. I mean, that notion is it's not going to happen. So I mean, you can let him develop. And the other thing, your point too, with an Eichel trade, you're never going to win that trade either. No. So if you're trying to replace Eichel, probably not the year, but they got to do the best they can.
It's not the year to trade. It's not the year, and nobody wants to hear this, but it's not the year to trade Eichel, because with his obvious animus right now toward the Sabre organization, what's going on with the neck injury, you're not going to get full value for him. You want to get as close to full value as possible. And the ones that I think that are prominent in terms of trading them are Reinhart, who's an RFA, or Ristolainen, who's got a year left. You concentrate on those guys, and you concentrate on rebuilding Eichel's value, because Eichel can't go anywhere if they don't want to trade him, at least right now.
The tricky part is just the no movement clause next summer. But I mean,
right, you do it before then.
But I mean, at the draft,
I'm going to say right now,
this year. Sorry, go ahead.
From talking to people, that the Sabres have no intention at all of trading Eichel like that, and I talk to people within pretty high up in that organization too, and they laugh that off. They say, of course, people are going to make those draws because he says stuff and this stuff happens. That's not in their. It's not on their radar at all. Like and now whether or not, they. Not to say, like we have said before, everything said to you from a GM or whatever has an expiration date, like a gallon of milk. Like it could expire, that could change on May 31st, 2000 and whatever. But I'm just saying that right now and I legitimately believe them. Not just that, they're not just saying that to me. They're not just saying like we're not going to trade Eichel just because they wanted to get that out there, because they actually have told me to not broadcast that out there I haven't written a blog about it or anything like that. I'm just saying it here, but they just said, listen, that's not what we're thinking. That's not where we're going at all. That's not
a smart play. Like I said, you're not going to win that trade. So
you're not going to win that trade.
If you can make them happy, then you should probably make them happy. But if he's miserable, then you have to at least consider, moving him up. Because if you're going to if your captain's unhappy and just going to be miserable, then you can't live like that either.
Yeah, at some point you do have to think about it.
We should talk about the other game from last night, but let me just to wrap up this thing. It's like we heard Brendan Shanahan and Kyle Dubas yesterday say that they were backing the core four and that they believe in them. They may have even said we're not going to trade them. Do I believe them? Do I believe their point of view? Yes. Does that mean that they're not going to trade them? Absolutely not. That's what I'm writing today. It doesn't mean a damn thing. If you get an offer for William Nylander or Rich Marner that benefits the Maple Leafs, they're doing it.
Well, here's the one thing that you can be sure of, Mike, and you're right, because and here's why you're right. The one thing you can always be sure of with trade rumors and all that kind of stuff, and I try to tell people this all the time, people who will listen, is that if the rumors are out there that Eichel could be traded or that Marner could be traded or that those things are traded, other GMs are calling. Even if the rumor preceded it, like, because the second someone hears that Eichel could be traded, if you don't check in with Adams, you're not doing your job. So you have to so what happens so those conversations do get started, even when they say they're not moving him now. And it's just, even when they say that, they're always, it's very rare that a GM won't listen, because a GM wants to talk to you about other things too. Like, so if another GM's calling you from another team, I'll listen to you talk about Eichel because I'm interested in this guy, and I'll placate your Eichel talk for a second, but now let's get down to what I really want from your team.
That guy could be Reinhardt too,
right?
You know, and that's one he's got 1 year of eligibility as an RFA left. You know, if they can't extend him for a longer term deal, either some kind of COVID bridge deal that would get them to the new TV deal, if he would take a 3-year deal when he can cash in when he's 28, 29, like Eberle did. Or,
I don't think he wants to do that, though.
I don't think he does either. I think he's probably going to say, give me 8 years, give me $8 million because I'm a center now. I don't
think he'll look for 8, but I get what you're saying. That does
five or six.
I think it's way more than that now that he's a center.
Yeah, I do.
Can I answer one question for the chat? I was going to answer before we got to this. So the difference between Owen Power and Barry Beck, and I know Barry Beck. I'm actually friendly with him. The difference is Barry Beck had this mean streak in him that Owen Power doesn't have. But Barry Beck would also be undisciplined, and Owen Power is hugely disciplined. He covers the best guys, and he barely takes any penalties. He also blocks a ton of shots. Beck was more offensive. He probably did block some shots in his day, but that wasn't en vogue back then for the type of defenseman he was. And Power is a way better passer.
When I hear
how old is our crowd
like that, I just think Tyler Myers. When you tell me,
he's a better passer than even Tyler Myers. You know how Tyler Myers?
That's just what I hear.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. This is why I don't really give comps. But Tyler Myers is a good passer. What I've seen Owen Power do, and this is at the USHL level and the college level, is make that seam pass without even thinking about it. And I've talked to him about it. He doesn't think about it. A lot of these things that he does are instinctive. So he doesn't look at it like, is this a low percentage pass? Is this a high percentage pass? Because he believes he can make every pass.
Because he's making that pass before the lane even opens up. Like he's one of those guys who's making that pass, seeing the lane's going to open. So
it's ironic that Tyler Myers' defensive partner in junior was Luke Shen. Yeah, and their careers sort of mirror each other because their best year was their first year, and then they were never the same player after that.
I can't believe Luke Shen's getting all this playing time now. It's crazy.
I can't believe that our audience is young enough, is old enough to talk about Barry Beck.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yes.
If he didn't, he would have been a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Tomorrow, folks, we talk about Rob Ramage and Rick Chartrand.
We're going to talk about the third line on the Colorado Rockies.
Pat Flatley of the Islanders ruined Barry Beck's shoulder. Pat Flatley.
Yes. Yeah, and we're not talking about Lord of the Dance.
The Colorado Rockies. Let's talk about the Colorado Avalanche.
Yes. So Russ, let me ask you this.
Thanks.
Good. Yes. Smooth. No, but okay. Okay. First of all, I want to ask the question, and I have not seen it yet, but I haven't seen anything online about it yet. It was curious. Marc-Andre Fleury starts game 2. Everybody knows about that, and then Russ let me know last night that Robin Lehner wasn't the backup last night. He
wasn't even out there. He wasn't anywhere.
But there's no news of injury. No, and they had an AHL goaltender backing up Fleury, and God forbid if Fleury had gotten hurt.
Logan Thompson.
Yeah. So I'm curious to find out what's going on. But boy, can you tell the difference between Marc-Andre Fleury in the playoffs and Robin Lehner? I know Lehner was put between the 8 ball.
Yeah, I think his team was just not right either that game. But I will say this. It seemed like the people who covered the team were legitimately shocked that Lehner wasn't at least the backup. So it does make you think, Eck, that he kind of blew a gasket after that game. And it's whether that's right or wrong, it does make you think that.
Yeah, well, Lehner is a bit of, he's definitely a loose cannon, and I don't mean that, and I hate to say that with a guy who's has been incredible towards mental health and all that. I don't mean that in that way at all. I just mean
I don't either. I'm talking about just from a competitive angle.
Right, on the ice, you see him blame players for goals. He goes back to Buffalo.
Oh yeah. When he was in Buffalo, he would definitely give the stare. He had the Viking stare with the long hair, and
yeah. And
he's a guy who definitely wears his heart on his sleeve for sure.
He does, and that whole arrogance of before the game of posting, the Iron Man thing on Twitter that he did before game 1 of rising like a phoenix out of the ashes. Fine. I mean, I like the NHL needs characters like that. It's cool. I think that's fine. I have no problem with that kind of stuff. I know a lot of people did have trouble with that because that's not a hockey type thing to do. But whatever. I think it's great that we have people who have voices and characters. But yeah, it made me wonder more. I went deeper, Russ. That's when I went to. I'm like, man, did they really were they pissed off about that whole thing? Did he go off on the team after the game in the locker room?
Something happened, I believe.
Because something because he was obviously he had every right to be upset about the way his team played in front of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, but after that game, they put him in an untenable position where, okay, we just had a 7-game series, a tough 7-game series against Minnesota. We're going to put you in game 1 against Colorado, a rested Colorado team, and the best team in hockey, and you get your ass handed to you, and they keep you in there because they want to rest Fleury for game 2. I would be pissed off, really.
Yeah.
Well, Fleury definitely makes the Avalanche a different team. I mean, makes the Knights a different team. Like, there's no question that they play a different team in front of them.
He definitely keeps the score down a little bit.
But beyond that, they just play a totally different way in front of them. They play they
more confidence.
Yeah, they never have. They know. I think more than anything, you know what he's going to do. Like, and if you're a defenseman, you know what the guy's going to do. That your goalie's going to do. That matters a lot. You know, like.
But the ironic thing, Eck, is that they played like that in front of Leonard last year. They were more confident in front of Leonard because Fleury either was hurt or was just having an off year.
Sometimes goalies do have off years. But Eck, in the end, the same guys that are causing them trouble from Colorado, which is at least 3 or 4. Are going to continue to cause trouble for them. Vegas is not winning this series. They're lucky if they're winning 2 games now.
I think it'll change, and I could see it going. I could see it being.
You think they're winning both in Vegas? No way.
I do. But I still think I don't think they're going to win. Oh, I do. I think they will. I don't see any reason why they won't, because I mean they.
How about Philip Grubauer? Can we give him credit?
Yeah, I was going to say Michael Hutchinson is not in goal for Colorado this time.
No,
Grubauer is the best playoff goalie right now.
I mean, they outplayed them last night. Vegas outplayed Colorado last night. They did. And Colorado took advantage of the opportunities they had. You know, I thought.
But that's what a good team does.
I hate the overtime power plays. I'm like old school about that. I hate when there's nothing worse than that. Like, I mean, was it legit? Do you think it was a legit power play? It wasn't to me that they
I was not awake for it, so I can't tell you the ins and outs for it.
I was half awake. That's why I asked.
I thought it was a legitimate penalty. You know, you don't like, again, I would rather go with the rules that we saw in the 80s that basically you have to have a broken limb in overtime to get a penalty.
No, I think we're past that.
I know that, but I'm just saying I would prefer that. But now they call a penalty if it's a trip or if it's something over the glass. They, you know, like that they sort of have to. So
they broke his stick, right? Yeah, so that's like
exactly, and
I've seen that let go too. Like that was let go in Florida, Tampa, quite a bit. I have to say that series they let them play through that. Are you ready for Marc-Andre Fleury to be the next Sabres goalie, Hank?
They're not spending that kind of money.
Yeah, well, I don't even know what the point of that would be, to be honest.
Well,
it's out there, right? That's why. I don't think it's.
Well, Hank, let me ask you because Elliot Friedman reported this last week, and I found it curious. He was talking about the Sabres looking for a goaltender and probably not willing to spend for Ullmark what he wants. Yeah. The rumor that he heard was Sam Reinhart to Columbus for Elvis Merzlikins.
I saw that as well. That makes 0 sense to me.
I agree with you.
With Elvis being a UFA next year,
he's wildly inconsistent too.
And I can't remember which Columbus goalie it was, but after a loss this year, one of them said, "I don't want to be like Buffalo. I can't go through all this losing." I can't remember if that was
I think it was Corpusalo.
Yeah. Okay. Really? Well, regardless, as you know, with 1 year left on his deal, I don't see that as a fit. I think if they can't extend Reinhart long term, I think they have to trade him, you know, to someone who will extend them for prospect or picks. I know he's from Vancouver. Maybe there's a fit in Vancouver. You know,
maybe they can trade him to LA for Cal Peterson. Oh, wait a second.
Too soon.
Too soon. Just on a side, do we know if Don Granato's even going to go on vacation in hopes that he doesn't miss the phone call that may or may never come? Like,
he could emulate his former boss, Ralph Kruger, who got fired via Skype. So, you know, maybe he can get hired via Skype.
No, you guys know I talked to Don, and I haven't gotten anything about that. And I'm being honest about that.
It's unfair the way this is going for him.
He's
Even
so
if he
professional.
Gets the job, I think it's unfair.
The one thing Kevin Adams did say this, and Don Granato did as well. When he was handed the interim job, Kevin Adams said, "At the end of the season, we're going to do a whole search." So I think they were honest with him throughout the whole process. And, you know, that goes a long way. You don't say,
Definitely.
you do this well, then you get the job automatically. He went into
so is he going to find out July 22nd when the draft's on the 23rd that, yes, he's got the job? Like,
no, I mean, I talked to him briefly.
At the same time, the Sabres owe it to themselves to do the whole search. I don't think,
Yeah. I think you're right. And I talked to him after the season just briefly, and I said, listen, no matter what happens here, you really, I think, set yourself up to be like to get a legit shot somewhere.
Let me ask you this, Hank.
And he just said, thanks, I really appreciate that. And that was the response I got. So that's where he's at.
Yeah. Have they interviewed anybody lately, and who could they be waiting for? Because they're not spending big money.
Rumors were that they interviewed Tocchet and Boudreau, and so that's interesting.
And they had interviewed Tocchet when they interviewed Kruger a few years ago. So this is like the second time around for Tocchet. And Boudreau has publicly said, Hank, that he wouldn't mind coming to Buffalo. And the reason
I heard that. Yeah, I heard that as well. Boudreau, I think, makes sense. If they're keeping vets, I think that really does make sense.
Right.
Just on Granato, I think that he did a really admirable job. I mean, you look at someone like Casey Middlestat, who I think most people were really starting to just write off as a total loss. And, maybe they can salvage him as a fourth line winger. And then he gets on Granato, he's back at center, he's playing fantastic.
He's fine. He'll be fine.
I think fans, should recognize what a good job he did, whether he's the right fit or depending on the direction.
I just think that they could wrap this up at the end of the week, but I get the feeling they're not.
I like Granato. I mean, I would have no problem with them saying, he did a good job. He was playing with Michael Hauser in net. If before this year, all due respect to Michael Hauser, he's literally a goalie.
I thought it was Doogie Howser.
Yeah, Doogie Howser. Yeah, but and I can't even remember who the backup was. He was another ECHL goaltender. He didn't get in any games.
What was it?
Was it Johansson? Was it who?
No, he'd been traded already.
He had been traded already. Okay.
Started with a V. He never got in a game. But anyway, it was basically like the emergency backup goal, the E-bug.
Was it John Blue? Remember John Blue, Ross?
I don't know that name.
To me, I think with Granato, he is obviously the consummate pro, right? So he is completely, which is one of the reasons that he works so well there, because they have that organization needs consummate pros. They need people who are just like, this is what we do. This is how it's done. This is how it works. And he said he liked coaching the team because, like the quote that I got from him, which I loved. He's like, it reminds me of coaching an AHL team because, sometimes
it was.
Nobody said this at the trade deadline. I'm like, you're worried about losing guys at the trade deadline. He's like, get the AHL team, your best players, they get called up to them. So it's no different than that. So I'm going to lose guys at the trade deadline, but that's how it goes. And, and he definitely set himself up for like a really good.
I mean, look at the team. When Kruger was there, they have Eichel, they have McCabe, they have Ullmark, they have Hall, they have Stahl. They have fewer wins under Kruger with those five guys.
I know.
Than Granato got without those five.
Now, do we think that if they do go with somebody else, that ownership will give the stipulation that Don Granato comes back as an assistant? Are they at least going to be loyal like that to him?
One of the journalists asked that in Granato's final comments for the season during his press availability, and he said he hadn't given that any thought yet, whether he would be open to that.
He didn't close the door on it. I was on the same conference call.
He did.
So
he did.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not going to.
Because I think at the very least they should do that.
No pro guy's going to close the door. It's like that's what he's going to do. He's going to do that right, and he's going to keep that. He's going to keep them. He does legitimately feel thankful for the opportunity he was given. Like he really does. He's like, I appreciate it. They gave me a chance to do this. I know I can do it. He's like, I know I can be a head coach in the NHL. But I was like, this, and I know this was a crazy situation, and I came in and tried to keep South bleeding. I do think Tocchet would be an awesome fit on many levels, and I think Tocchet, especially with Eichel, their personalities are very similar.
Tocchet is a sort of player whisperer. I mean, he had great relations with Phil Kessel, so and who's a difficult player to sort of get.
And Eichel's not a difficult player. That's the thing. Eichel is far from difficult. Like Eichel's not a problem player.
All right, hold on. We do have not breaking news, but I didn't see this yesterday. For the Rangers interviewed Tocchet for a second time.
Right. Okay. I was going to say after Sullivan
basically a lot more from the Rangers.
Can it be any more clear at this point? By the way, go ahead, Micah.
I was going to say after Sullivan was guaranteed to come back with Pittsburgh, Tocchet to Buffalo or even Tocchet to the Rangers makes more sense. So I mean, he's going to get a job.
The Rangers definitely would have wanted Sullivan had he been available. I think that would have even trumped a guy like Torts or anybody else.
But Torts is not the right guy for Buffalo, in my opinion. I don't see that.
But they weren't going to even interview him, which is kind of weird. I would bring him in. I would bring him in just to see what he would tell me on how to fix the team.
The interesting thing it
doesn't cost you to bring him in, Mike.
The thing on the money, which is hilarious, is Ralph Kruger wasn't cheap. People don't realize that.
No,
he was
yeah.
a coach,
He was
which
very
is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because of how it turned out. But
Right,
everyone assumed that, because he's been in soccer, he's this cheap. No, it was not cheap.
This is the mistake Kevin Adams is making. You bring in these guys like Torts to learn about what they think is wrong with your team, and they're not doing that.
And then that's why Babcock wouldn't interview with people before, because he knew that's what they were doing. He said, I won't interview with a team because
everybody
I know
does that. Every business does that.
I don't know. I don't obviously know Kevin Adams. I don't know the Pagulas, but the way the Pagulas operate is very insular.
Yeah.
They really like to close ranks around themselves. And so I know, at least on an ownership level, it seems like they're hesitant to get a lot of feedback that might be something that they don't want to hear.
Well,
I don't get the sense that Adams is like that, but they're operating in this really small echo chamber.
Well, Hank,
worried about that.
Hank, that's a symptom of them feeling burned by the NHL before, because they got people to suggest them Tim Murray, and they believed him, and then they got people to suggest them Jason Botterill, and they felt burned, and that's why I don't believe all these rumors about Jim Rutherford coming to Buffalo, because I don't think they want anybody in between them and Kevin Adams. Adams,
that's fair, but you still could learn from all these other guys that are out there.
Yeah.
Well, Adams may have learned. He just can't hire the guys. That's the problem.
And sort of as a transition to the last thing we'll talk about, which is tonight's game, is the first one game tonight, at least. I think that we need to say at this point that Brendan Moore to Seattle is very real. Like,
it's getting realer by the day.
The fact that I thought Taka, I'm like, okay, maybe Taka's going to Seattle, but the fact Taka's interviewing all over the place tells you something. The fact that they have made no mention at all of coaches. That Ron Francis doesn't. I mean, and they're at the draft table yesterday, and that's what I asked them. Hey, you ever going to hire a coach? Tells me that Brendan Moore to Seattle is
no, that's fair, because they could be charting at a coach every 10 minutes just to see,
and they're not.
And on the nominees for the Calder came out today, and Djokovic was one of the three. And he won't win because Kaprizov is going to. But all of a sudden, you see, Peter Mrazek's in the home team's net for the Hurricanes. This is panic mode now.
No.
Yes,
this
it is.
The absolute right thing for Brendan Moore to do. There is no reason. First of all, you're not going to beat Tampa. They clearly see that the chances.
It's a Hail Mary, though. It is.
No,
right,
but no. What it is, it's a saving play, because first of all, you don't screw up your rookie goalie anymore. You because he's going to sit in there, and even if you outshoot them like 30 to 15 every game, the rookie goalie has nothing to win from that. So give him a break, get him out of there. Mrazek, by the same token, thrives in bizarre situations. Like Mrazek is one of those goalies that could steal a game tonight. Like I could see him just stealing.
Any goalie can steal a game.
No, Mrazek specifically. Like he is a specifically weird goalie in terms of the fact that he is best when the chips are completely stacked against him, and when everybody's out to get him.
And you know what he's worse? When he gives up the first goal on the first shot, which happens a lot with him.
He's the 2021 version of Arthur Urban.
Let me ask you guys a question. Why is Brendan Moore, not under contract? Is it money? Is it purely money? What is it?
Money.
It's money with
That's
them.
all it is.
This is the team that wanted to pay their GMs $500,000 a year.
It's Thomas Dundon being a cheapskate and believing that certain people, like the announcer for the team, I'm going to have them fit into my salary structure, and if they don't want to, they're going to go. I mean, I'm sure if the rumor was Brendan Moore was going to get a 3-year deal at I think it was 1.8 million, which is half the money that Ralph Kruger is being paid to sit on his ass in Switzerland next year.
Yeah.
No, and I also do believe that Brendan Moore is not just Brendan Moore with the money. It's also Brendan Moore wanting his assistants to get paid.
No, and that's fair.
He wants his assistants to get paid. He wants his assistants to stay with him.
Seems so short-sighted. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, but here's another thing that I think you're overlooking. If they really look at Nick Jelkovic as their goaltender of the future, why did they put him on waivers? Any team could have taken him when they put him on waivers.
Oh, I know. I agree.
I
don't
think they look at him that way. I think
they do now.
And Russ, they had to play him down the stretch, because if he didn't play a certain amount of games, he would have been a UFA at the end of the year. And now they have some protection, but that was probably one of the contributing factors to him being put on waivers. But now all of a sudden, okay, he's our savior. Well, and now he's their savior. Now you're sitting him for Mrazek.
And he's their temporary savior. I don't think they look at him as their long-term goalie. I don't.
No.
You have to do something, Russ, tonight. You like after those 2 games against Tampa, where you really you couldn't. I mean,
that's fine. I'm not saying it's the
nothing to do with goalies. Those games had nothing to do with goalies. They have everything to do with just with Tampa playing a system, with Carolina playing a system that doesn't work against Tampa. Like you can't sit back against Tampa and expect to win. You can't. You have to go for it. You're gonna give up chances, but you got to go for it. You can't. If you hold Tampa to 15 shots, that means you're not playing any offense. In my opinion.
I'm going to give you this scenario though. Here's a scenario. So let's just say it doesn't go well for Mrazek. He gives up 2 early goals. They lose the game. Brind'Amour starts arguing with Dundon because he says, Don Waddell hasn't gotten me a goalie in 2 years. I've gotten you the best defense in the league, really good offense, and nothing has improved here. Why should I re-sign here when the same stuff's happening over and over again?
That's totally legit. Agreed.
And it's going to get even worse next year.
That's the worst case scenario, of course.
Well, and it's going to get even worse next year, Russ, because they're probably not going to give Dougie Hamilton what he wants, and he's going to go free agent. And their defense, now, they're going to have
Hamilton. They've paid once before. They didn't give Svechnikov the contract he wanted, and oddly enough, he didn't have his best year, so they may have been right about that. I can't say they won't pay Hamilton, though. They really like him. If they don't pay Hamilton, then they're never going to pay anybody.
Right.
No, I agree with that. And this is true that what Funky's put in here, Mrazek stole game 1 versus Tampa in the 2015 playoffs. I know.
I had more hair in 2015. That's a long time ago.
Not really, Mraz. I knew you in 2015. Right. I don't think you had any more hair in 2015, honestly. I'm just saying. But that's fine. Anyway,
I had less hair on my face, but anyway.
Anything else from me?
No, we're good, Hank. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me on. It was great.
It was great having you on. We'll have you on more for sure in the future. Thank you so much, Hank.
Take care, guys.
Make sure you check out Hank's articles, Hockey Buzz, and there really are. I mean, honestly, that is a tough team to cover.
No, it's not. No, it's not, because there's so much to write about. Because there's so much. There's so much dysfunction
to cover it without becoming totally ridiculously jaded, like you would be.
No. I'm sorry that there are reporters who have covered that team for 25, 30 years, and they're jaded, and they should be because of the state of the organization.
The Islanders are playing tonight. I thought they were. We should mention that too.
Well, no, it's a great. Obviously, there's so much news today. We definitely will get into that too. And it sounds like Varlamov again, from what I heard.
Seems that way.
Which makes sense. I mean, it's a great game. It's probably the best series out there, honestly, and
it's entertaining as hell.
It is. Tonight, it's really hard to it's hard for Tampa and Carolina to compete against that series in my mind. To me,
I don't think they can, because I think this one, no team has momentum. I think the momentum keeps shifting back and forth, and that's why I still think it's going to go to 7, because I think they have there's 2 very good coaches there, and they have players that they can count on, and because of that, they can pull it out. Even if either team is down a couple of games, they could come back from it. That's the kind of series we're looking at.
I agree. It's going to be fantastic. And, I just think that if Varlamov has been a Bruins killer, apparently, that's why they didn't play.
That's not why they won the last game. Varlamov did not win in the game. They won the game on an unforced error. That's why they won the game. This is where the Bruins killer thing, I can't put him in that category.
If he was a Bruins killer, he wouldn't have allowed 2 goals by Bergeron and Marchand in the 3rd period. That's bunk.
His record against the Bruins is insane. And I think
there's a lot of things that lead up to a record.
I know, but it does play into it when you're in the opposing team and you look across there and you're like, oh, we can't beat that guy. That does go into your head. I'm not.
Do you really think the Bruins feel that way? I don't.
I don't think most of the Bruins feel that way. I don't think it matters to the top guys at all. But I think there are some Bruins that do feel that way. And and it does matter suddenly if he has a game where he's playing out of his mind, it starts to matter. Things certain situations, for what it's worth, I don't. And I like the fact, Trotz is doing it. I think he's doing the right move, even though you guys know him as a broken guy. I do think Sorokin would be better in the long term, but I think you stay with Varlamov if you're winning. I think he goes back to Sorokin the second Varlamov loses.
I think Carson Kuhlman and Kyle Clifton may think that way. I don't think anybody else does, honestly.
Well, I'm not a Kyle Clifton whisperer, so I don't know. But I think we'll say.
You have to press the button to end the show.
Oh, thanks is that a hint? All right, folks, the show should be over now. I guess Mike is saying. Remember,
Mike is gone. We can say whatever we want about him.
Mike just did his mic drop. Nice little joke there. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will all talk to you tomorrow. Hopefully not about any suspensions or anything like that.